Friday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope your weekend is off to a good start. Browns getting ready for the Steelers in Pittsburgh Sunday at 1 o'clock. Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin on what he has seen from quarterback Jameis Winston.
He's got unbelievable arm talent. He was the first pick in the draft, and you're not the first pick in the draft for no reason, man. He's got arm strength. He's got accuracy. He's got trajectory. He can place the ball just about anywhere on the field. He's a big-time competitor to boot. He never turns down competition. He's going to fight to win possession downs and things of that nature, man. We got to do a really good job of matching that competitive spirit, making our plays, knowing that there's a potential that you could give some up, man, when a guy comes at you the way he does and with the amount of weaponry that he has at his disposal.
With that, let's welcome in Brad Ward from the Orange and Brown Report, as well as the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. Brad, I know you wrote an article, and I want to kind of tie it into what Tomlin said about Winston. If Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski have to win in 2025, and that's certainly a reasonable expectation, assuming both of them are back, which we think is going to be the case. Where does Jameis Winston rank among the best quarterback options, do you think?
Near the top. I think, there's not a ton of options out there for them to go to in this situation, right? We don't know what's going to happen with Sam Darnold. I think that is potentially another option they'll probably kick the tires on, because I think he probably ends up a free agent. They're going to go to their rookie likely before paying him a big contract because they really like him. I would think they'll probably monitor the situation surrounding Kirk Cousins, which looks worse now. He's not playing at a really high level at the moment. But they also, with Michael Penix Jr., have to make a decision there, how they want to move forward. And then you have Jameis. And outside of that, you could draft a quarterback. But in a must-win season, if you want to look at it that way, and that's how I frame it. Now, sometimes, Dave, if you draft a quarterback, that kind of resets the clock a little bit for a GM and a coach. So, especially if you draft one high. So maybe if they really fall in love with somebody in the draft process, that could maybe reset the clock a little bit and maybe give them a year or two. But I don't see anybody in this class that jumps off the page to me as like the perfect fit for Stefanski in this offense. Jameis is that perfect fit if you can prevent the turnover, the back-breaking turnover, right? Which has been hard to do, certainly, especially this far into his career. Because some of the great plays he makes, if you're trying to take those away or not have him take those risks, you're going to lose some of those great plays too that he makes. You know what I mean? So the tight windows that he throws into, and you're like, wow, that was an incredible throw. Some of those turn into interceptions sometimes. But I do think that they have to take a hard look at him as one of the top options.
Yeah, and so we'll put that in perspective, what we're talking about with the turnovers. No active quarterback has a higher interception percentage than Jameis Winston. It's 3.4%. Only two other active quarterbacks have interception percents over 2.7. Gabbert at 3.2 and Sam Darnold, the aforementioned, at 3 even. Mm-hmm. Since 2012, only 7 quarterbacks have been on a roster with a higher interception percentage than Winston. Derek Anderson, we saw that. Mark Sanchez, both at 3.8. So again, how do the Browns? And you wrote another article relative to this. You've been writing a lot about the quarterback position. So how do you do it? What do you do to mitigate his propensity for turning the ball over?
First thing is you can't throw it 60 times or have him drop back 60 times like he did the other night. Any quarterback, Dave, in that situation is going to throw some interceptions, right? You can't ask him to go win you games. Like, he can't be the driving force of your offense. You have to have a run game. the Browns don't have any semblance of a run game right now. They can't get any push up the middle. And there's a number of reasons for this. Injury is part of it. They changed their concepts in the offseason, to fit Watson, and he's no longer a part of this world. And some of the personnel doesn't really match what they're trying to accomplish, right? As far as they don't really have like big bruising offensive linemen. They have guys that they brought in to run that wide zone scheme. So now you switch to something that requires you to get push up front, and they're smaller, older offensive linemen. And they're just not getting any push when they go to run the football. And that makes them one dimensional. We saw it last year with Joe Flacco. They were tremendously one dimensional. When he was the quarterback, he was the guy fueling the offense, and it exploded up in a terrible, disappointing performance in the playoffs, right? With a couple pick sixes. You're seeing a similar situation here where they can't run the ball at all. So ultimately, the game script and that lend itself to him throwing the ball 58 times on Monday night. Uh, but that's never going to be the best result for him. You have to put other weapons around him. You have to give him a run game. He's actually really never been in a situation where he's had a really good run game around him in his entire career, maybe for a season in New Orleans. But, he in doing so in this offseason, that would be the biggest thing you can do to mitigate his turnovers. That in the coaching, right? Talking about risk versus reward. Like some of his turnovers on Monday night, Dave, the risk was so much higher than the reward on a 5 yard out that you're throwing from the opposite hash. Of course, he missed it about 15 yards inside. I'm talking about the interception he tried to throw to Elijah Moore late in the game. But the reward there is 5 yards, and you're throwing it 25 yards across the field. You know what I mean? So some of those need to be coached out of him. Now, can a tiger change his stripes this late in the game? I don't know, right? But you got to try, right? Where you are on the field, down, distance, score, all these things need to be reminded in his headset all the time. But the running game is the biggest mitigating factor. A run game around him, I think, would change that in a big way.
All right. So whenever you're on, we talk about this. The things I think I know about the Browns. Another article you wrote for the Orange and Brown Report. Couple of subplots here. How does Myles Garrett repeat Defensive Player of the Year? And how will the Browns handle Jack Conklin's contract after this season? The Conklin contract, I want to see that one because he's played really well.
He has. The concern is his health, right? That's always been the concern. And in fact, he was so late coming back, Dave, that, we talked, me and Casey talked a lot. We were concerned that he would get back, but he is playing at a very high level. He's by far their best lineman right now. If he can make it through these last 5 games healthy, I think you have to look at that contract and kind of do what they've done in the past, what they did with Nick Chubb and some other guys, where there's no guaranteed money in his contract next year. So maybe you can give him a little bit of guaranteed money, have him take a pay cut in return for that pay cut, and then maybe offer some incentives to make up a little bit of the difference. But a pay cut is in line, certainly, if you want to keep him around. You can't pay him at the number he's owed. It's just too much. But you would like to keep him because he's playing at a high level. So if he gets to the offseason healthy, then I'm trying to bring him back at a lower rate.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree wholeheartedly. In that way, maybe Dwan Jones is your other tackle. Maybe you need to get somebody early in the draft that is a developmental guy. But if he stays healthy, you got to find a way because he answers a big piece of it. Mike Tomlin talked about what he saw from Myles Garrett last time the Browns played the Steelers. Garrett and that defensive line as well.
We didn't do a good enough job of minimizing Myles Garrett in the first game, man. He was significant. Not only his playmaking, but the energy that he provides, his teammates, their followers. He made some significant plays early on in that game that made it tough uphill sledding the rest of the way for us. But it's not just the beginning of the game. It's over the course of the entirety of the game. We better work to minimize his impact. They do some awesome things to challenge you in that way. They move him around quite a bit, both edges. He also plays on the interior. We better do a really good job in one-dimensional moments, obviously. You get behind the chains, possession downs, et cetera. He's at his best in those moments, and not only is he looking to close the door in terms of the pocket, but he's always ball searching and has been highly productive in that area as well. He's got a well-rounded group along with him. Tomlinson is a core interior guy and run stopper.
And Brad, Myles Garrett, it's kind of lost because the season's been so bad. He's playing really well again.
He is. In that Pittsburgh game, going back to the last quarter, he was 35-1, Dave, going into that game, not even on the first page for Defensive Player of the Year. But because it was against Watt and he played so well and it was on national TV, and because he kind of cut a promo after the game, if you had heard the soundbite where he's talking about I'm the best and, it runs through me and all that stuff. He jumped all the way up to second in most odds for Defensive Player of the Year. So now the guys that win Defensive Player of the Year usually are on winning teams. I think the last guy that was on a losing team was like 2006, Jason Taylor. And he created like 11 turnovers himself that year. So he would have to do something tremendous, but nobody is running away with this award. So if he were to have an amazing Myles Garrett 5-game stretch, he could still win the award, but he would have to make up for being on a losing team. And this Watt versus him head-to-head matchup, if you get another one where he gets a couple sacks and disrupts and affects the game, and Watt is as quiet as he was in the last matchup, because Conklin did such a good job, and the Browns had a good plan to chip him as well. Maybe that makes a big difference too, as far as Defensive Player of the Year. But yeah, he's playing tremendous football. He's playing hard late in this season, and he's being a leader about it too. He's talking a lot about how these games still matter to them, and trying to get that defense to continue to play hard. And you got to give them credit for their record. They have shown a lot of fight as a team in the past 2 weeks.
All right, so some news relative to who will be playing on Sunday from practice today. Maurice Hurst out, Sam Kamara out, Cedric Tillman out, Jedrick Wills still out, questionable Harden, Thornhill, and Jamari Thrash all banged up. Also, the Browns signed a couple of guys to the practice squad that have some experience. Defensive tackle Michael Dwumfor and T.Y. McGill, because of the injuries to Hurst and Kamara, one of those two likely to be active. The one thing is you got them here in Cleveland. Pittsburgh's just going to be ready for this one. They're really going to be ready for this.
Yeah. No way they want to get swept. Browns haven't won there in the regular season since 2003. It's a streak they don't want to give up. Yeah, they will be ready. This is, it's kind of the schedule quirk where you play the team twice in 3 weeks, but it really does ramp up the rivalry, especially, you win, in highly intense environment like the snow game, right? And then you're coming back for this one. They want this one badly, for sure. The interesting parts of the guys there that you mentioned not there, I'm anxious to see, and I don't think he'll play this week, as I said, questionable, but I'm anxious to see Miles Harden play. He's a guy I really liked, and I would like to see him play a little bit. And, it's unfortunate that Tillman is out again because he was really kind of, his game was elevating. But at the same time, it does allow you to get a longer look at a guy like Mike Woods, who really flashed in Monday night.
Brad Ward from the Orange and Brown Report. All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. Now I'm going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the side of the break, we'll hear from George Pickens and Mike Tomlin. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Ted.
Hi, Betty.
Oh no, you wrapped yourself into a daze.
Holidays.
You need a break, so I got you Ohio Lotteries Home for the Holidays and Merry Money Scratch-Offs.
You could win up to $500,000 or $1 million. Oh, thanks, hon.
And they have games on the back. Has anybody seen my glasses?
We continue talking Browns with Brad Ward from the Orange and Brown Report, as well as the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. So game ended against the Steelers. Greg Newsome and George Pickens kind of tackling each other, and Pickens had to be restrained going after Newsome. The war of words with George Pickens continued today.
You think you'll say
Last
anything
one,
to
guys.
Greg Newsome? You think you'll talk to Greg Newsome at all today, before the game, or anything?
I don't even know who that is.
So there's Greg Newsome's response to George Pickens saying that he doesn't know who he is. And Brad, what would a Browns Steelers rivalry be without a little bit of flavor to it, huh?
Yeah, it's great stuff. Pickens is something else, and hey, he took himself out of that play. I mean,
Thank
on
you.
the Hail Mary.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for doing that. Yeah, absolutely.
So talented guy, but again, even last week against the Bengals, you make a 40-yard reception and get a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty.
Yeah.
All right, Mike Tomlin talked about what he's seen from Jeudy, who has done really well with Jameis Winston.
He's got unbelievable arm talent. He was the first pick in the draft, and you're not the first pick in the draft for no reason, man. He's got arm strength. He's got accuracy. He's got trajectory. He can place the ball just about anywhere on the field. He's a big-time competitor to boot. He never turns down competition. He's going to fight to win possession downs. And things of that nature, man. We got to do a really good job of matching that competitive spirit, making our plays, knowing that there's a potential that you could give some up, man, when a guy comes at you the way he does, and with the amount of weaponry that he has at his disposal.
Obviously, he's talking about Jameis Winston and not Jeudy, but Jeudy has put up some huge numbers since Jameis Winston has become the quarterback. And really, Brad, all the wide receivers. People I've gotten into it a little bit with people that want to see DTR. Jameis Winston allows you to evaluate the higher end of your receiving room, and you need to figure that out.
Right now, from all of them, right? So Jerry Jeudy is 6th in the league in total yards now after the 5 weeks that he has just amazing performance. He's averaging like 100 and some yards a game. Obviously, the 235-yard revenge game. But even better than that was the first Pittsburgh game in the snow. I mean, he was the guy that kept stepping up in big moment. And he's high pointing the ball, and he's open, and he looks fast, Dave. And he looks like he's getting better with every game as his confidence grows. And, he talked a lot about before the Denver game, and all the way back to when his introductory press conference in Cleveland, I just feels good to have somebody believe in me. And the Browns have empowered him. And with Winston, throwing him the ball at the as much as he is and looking for him the way that he is, he looks tremendous. I mean, he looks amazing. His performance has been overwhelming, making that contract look really, really good at this point, as he looks like he's going to go over 1,000 yards this year. Elijah Moore is made the decision tough. What do you want to do with him? He has been fantastic. And then you've had Cedric Tillman as well look good before the unfortunate concussion in the last Pittsburgh game, where once again he was challenging for one extra yard, and Mike Woods even giving you a little flash. So they've all looked good, and Njoku has looked good, and you want to continue to see that trend moving forward, because it's maybe one less thing you really need to, you know, go add in the offseason. Now, I would never let who they have, Dave, like Jerry Jeudy, preclude me from going out and drafting a true number one,
Yep.
like a real legit wide receiver to this room. But just going out and getting another guy may not be necessary.
Well, so we've teased it. Here's Mike Tomlin talking about what he's seen from Jerry Jeudy.
Jeudy is a route runner. They move him around quite a bit to make it difficult for you to match up on him. But they do a really nice job of utilizing his skill set. There's not a route that he can't run. He gets in and out of breaks really well. He's capable of going by you in terms of the vertical passing game. He could create space and separation in the non-vertical passing game with his short area quicks.
So, Brad, again, we mentioned the wide receivers and Winston. Ken Dorsey has kind of taken the play calling duties. And I know you kind of wrote an article. This is his chance to state his case why he should be in charge of this offense and why this offense should stay.
Yeah, I mean, he was brought here basically as kind of a glorified quarterbacks coach for what was like, hey, you're here to get the best performance possible out of Deshaun Watson. We are no longer living in that world, right, Dave? So he has the opportunity calling plays, the rest of this season to show what him and Kevin can do together offensively to save his job or be back next year. Like, I don't have that down as a certainty, right? Like, I think that a lot of this offensive staff was brought in with one thought in mind: let's make sure we prop up four. And that's no longer going to be the issue. So you kind of have to reevaluate who you have in that room. And so far, so good, though, because the passing game looks tremendous. Now, the running game is lacking. I don't know, nobody has had an answer for that. So that is an issue. But the passing game has been tremendous with Dorsey calling plays and Winston as quarterback. So far, so good.
All right, before I let you go, what are you looking for? What do you want to see against the Steelers? We've talked in the past. The effort's been really good. This team has not quit. I know we want to see that. What else do you want to see against Pittsburgh?
And continue to evaluate Jameis big time. Can he lessen the big turnover? Can he continue to lead this team and be competitive week in, week out? I mean, the win against the Ravens, the win against the Steelers, they have a chance to actually put up a really good record against the AFC North, which would be an accomplishment in itself. So, sweeping the Steelers would be an accomplishment within itself. And, we are seeing them play competitive football where a lot of teams in their position are not, and have kind of packed it in. So, and I think a lot of that has to do with his intangibles too. So I'm going to continue to evaluate Jameis in a big way, because that is a major decision. You would love to see him improve on the run game. I just don't know if they have the personnel to do that this year. But, not throwing it 58 times would be a start. But yeah, and continue to evaluate these wide receivers. On the defensive side, you're going to have Ronnie Hickman back there, Mohamed Diabate, Isaiah McGuire, all young players that you're watching and you want to see ascend, make plays in big moments, things like that, because they can be a part of your team and your future as you go into 2025. You've got to make some personnel decisions there, because it is a critical year for Stefanski and Barry. So they're going to treat it as such. So evaluating these young players is huge too.
Brad Ward, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Brad.
Thank you for having me, Dave.
Brad Ward, make sure you check him out. Orange and Brown Report. He is also the host of the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Video analysis, film breakdown, 3 keys to beating the Steelers Sunday. Sports4CLE, we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Browns getting ready to head to Pittsburgh to face the Steelers, trying to get a sweep of the Steelers after beating them here in Cleveland. Let's welcome in Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Video breakdown, film analysis. 3 keys to winning that rematch with the Steelers. And you can be sure, Lance, Steelers want this one and need it a little bit, leading the AFC North.
Yeah, the first thing they got to do is they got to take away George Pickens in my estimation. The thing that makes this game really interesting is that the Steelers need it more than the Browns, but sometimes that doesn't correlate into playing better. You kind of look at the Ohio State-Michigan game. Sometimes you put such added pressure on yourself. Now, the good thing about the Steelers is Mike Tomlin is always successful, so it's going to be a very, very tough game for the Browns to go in there and win. However, I think they got the pieces, parts, and they kind of they're getting better. And they have to play really good defense offensively. Obviously, Jameis Winston, before we talk any keys, has to protect the football. If he does that, they'll have a chance for sure.
Well, you mentioned it. Number one on it, Denzel Ward has to do a job on George Pickens. So take us through this and what you see with this matchup.
Well, this is him last week. George Pickens had a really good game. He's an explosive guy. He's kind of what I want the Browns to get. He's a guy who just needs touches. So if you look at that play, and then you look at when Ward's in man coverage on him. Now, the thing that you really watch with George Pickens is, first of all, he's very good run after catch. He's very good at releases, very good at the catch point, all those things I always talk about. But when you look at his success against the Browns last year, this year, anytime the Browns are in zone, he has a lot more success. Even if you look at that long slant he caught last year at the Steelers, that was when the Browns were in zone. That wasn't really on Denzel Ward. So, when I break down this film and I got like 5 to 6 games in, George Pickens is their guy when it comes to being explosive. He's got to be taken away, and then the playing field is level. He's an explosive guy. He makes big plays. I think Denzel Ward not only is only playing at a high level, but the other corners are not right now. Now, I think they will, but I think they can be very successful against the rest of those receivers. Ward's got to have a big night or a big afternoon on Pickens.
Yeah, the other thing, and you saw it a little bit in the Browns game, you saw it last week, Pickens had a couple of 15-yard penalties after big catches, and that's the kind of guy you want to get inside his head because he works against his team.
Well, and man coverage does that. And Denzel Ward, he is best. Denzel Ward, in my opinion, is best when he's in press coverage and man. Now, he plays great in off man too, but I think he's a top 5 corner, and a lot of people don't think of him that way, but I do. I watch a lot of film. He's as good as any corner in the NFL in man coverage. Now, he plays good zone too, but in man coverage, in your face, me versus you, there are not many better than Denzel Ward. That frustrates a guy like Pickens. That can get him off his game. That's what the Browns need to do. The Browns need to make him one-dimensional, make him catch the ball, and have Ward covering him. That'll be a tough night for Pittsburgh.
Well, the other thing, number 2 in the 3 keys to beat the Steelers, have to get Hayward, Queen, and Watt blocked. They did a good job of that in game 1. Now, they will be getting Highsmith back, early reports are, who has missed a few games as well. That'll make it a little more difficult.
Well, first thing for me is you're going to see a great play here by Hayward. Center's going to try to back on him in a powered look. Really, really hard to do. Now, the thing that you like about Hayward is his consistency, and he frees up the linebackers by taking on 2 blockers almost every time somebody runs the ball. They have elite players at all levels, so they have elite guys. They actually have elite players at all 4 levels, because I consider the inside and outside of defensive line as a level. So they got Hayward, they got Watt, they have Queen, and then they have Minka Fitzpatrick at the secondary. So the Browns are going to have to be very good at what they do. No one, in my opinion, does as good a job at chipping as the Browns do. Browns are outstanding at chipping and understanding angles and how to chip and make it easy for their tackles. Again, they got to get these guys blocked. They got to double team Hayward in the run game. They got to chip Watt in the pass game. They got to make sure that they account for Minka Fitzpatrick when they're throwing the ball deep. And then obviously you got to get off those double team blocks and get the Queen on the second level. Very tough task. That's why the Steelers defense is so good right now.
Yeah, and the Browns did a really good job of doing what you were talking about with chipping Watt and not letting him be a factor in that first game, the Thursday night game here in Cleveland.
Well, yeah, and the Browns do a really good job. So I'm actually going to break this down later today, but the Browns do an awesome job of creating an angle. And the key to a chip block for me, especially what I learned, and I learned it from some really smart guys, I think, is that you have to take away the edge from the pass rusher. So the Browns do a really good job of widening that chip guy so he can hit the outside shoulder and make that defensive end go inside. When that defensive end has to go inside, he no longer can come around the corner. A guy like Watt likes to rush, use his speed around the corner. When you chip him and attack his outside shoulder, he doesn't get that outside rush. Then he's not overly huge, so these big tackles can handle him. It's when he gets on the edge with no help that he's really hard to block.
All right, and the third key of the three keys to beating the Steelers: control the run game, make the Steelers one-dimensional. Take us through what you see here.
Well, I go back. I started watching this film yesterday, actually, and what you saw in this first meeting was you saw 8 guys in the box. You saw the Browns playing downhill. This is Thornhill getting with a D-gap run fit. Then he had all his teammates run the ball. And when this play stops, look at all those orange hats. And as a defensive coordinator, as a head coach, that's what you want. And then if you get that, then you can get a pass rush. And this is, Myles Garrett had 3 sacks last time they met. One was just on pure speed. The one that was just on was a twist. So they do a really good job. So first, second down, they got to stop the run, get it to second and third and long, and then rush the passer. You're going to see the next clip here. Myles Garrett's at the bottom. And Tomlinson's going to take up 2 here. Myles is going to come inside, and Myles Garrett then easily beats Frazier, their rookie center. So, again, Schwartz is going to do a good job. The offensive line for Pittsburgh is very physical, but they're very young. They're very good at run blocking, but they're not great in pass protection. They're especially not great in pass protection when other teams know they have to throw on third long. So the formula is there. The Browns already did it in the first meeting. Stop the run early, rush the passer late, create some turnovers. They had 3 turnovers, and that won them the game.
Yeah, and to your point, that defense against the run, they have Harris, they have Warren. The defense was all over the place on the run game, and you see it just with all of the guys flowing to the ball carrier. They're going to need that again because I would suspect that the Steelers want to establish those 2 guys running the football.
Well, those 2 had 27 carries for only 86 yards, so just about 3 yards a carry. But the big thing for me, more than scheme and technique, and a lot of times we talk scheme and technique, and a lot of people ask me about scheme and technique, but there's a lot, especially defensive football, that you have to get to the football. You have to have hats to the football. Offenses are very smart. You have to help your teammates if they get blocked. You have to have orange hats. So the more orange hats that you have, the better. That's what I saw in this game as compared to leading up to that game. You saw the Browns and Jim Schwartz's defense dictating the pace of play, not letting the offense dictate pace of play. And sometimes you're going to give up a big play, and I completely am okay with them giving up a big play if they stay true to their identity. They did that in the first game. Make Russell Wilson beat you in the air, put Ward on, stop the run, make Russell beat you, put Ward on Pickens. You got a good chance to win this football game.
When you look at the Browns offensively, how important is it, and I think I know what the answer is going to be, to run the football? They kind of didn't do that against the Broncos.
Well, I've had a lot of, obviously the easiest thing to say is Jameis Winston needs to protect the ball, which is the Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston is the only guy who could throw for 500 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 5 picks. It's like he is who he is, and I don't think he's going to change. And I don't think he would be as successful if he did change. But the way you prevent him from not throwing the ball 60 times is to run the ball. Get some more manageable situations, because the one thing about Jameis Winston, he's smart with the football. So if you can get him into second and third and manageable, he'll take the routes that are given to him. What he has a tendency to do if he has a long yardage is he tries to take the hardest throw or the throw that's going to get him the most yards. But if you look, when they're on schedule and it's 2nd and 6 or 2nd and 5 or 3rd and 5, he's very good. He'll find the routes. He'll throw those slants. He'll throw those checkdowns. But they got to win on 1st down, prevent him from throwing it 60 times. And I think they'll be in good shape. You get what you get with Jameis Winston, and everybody wants him to change. He's not going to change. This is 10th year in the league. He's going to throw a bunch of interceptions. He's going to throw a bunch of touchdowns. He's going to practice really hard, and you get what you get. So they got to run the ball to kind of keep some pressure off him and not put so much onus on him carrying the football team.
Lance Reisland, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Lance.
As always, thanks for having me.
Lance Reisland, make sure you check him out. Always really good film breakdown, video analysis. Gave us 3 keys for the Browns beating the Steelers coming up on Sunday. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
So I know we have some needs of our football team, and just reevaluating something, I believe that we should get Drew Aller. Now, I'm not saying for a 1st or 2nd because we have other needs. If he's there in the 3rd or 4th round still, I think we should get him just because some of the qualities reminds me of a lot of Josh Allen. And if we're going to continue with Ken Dorsey's system, I think Drew Aller will be a good fit for what Ken wants to do, and that's throw down the field vertically. Because Deshaun really didn't fit what Ken wanted to do. And I think this quarterback would help the system evolve more.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Let's welcome in Jacob Roach from the Orange and Brown Report, the Barking Browns podcast. Jacob, Drew Aller is an interesting name, a local kid. I think he's got a great arm. He's probably not coming out. He's probably staying at Penn State or entering the transfer portal because I honestly believe he'll end up being a 1st or 2nd round pick by the time he enters the NFL draft in a year or 2.
Yeah, if I was, advising Drew Aller on whether or not he should come out or stay, I would tell him to stay just because I don't think he's a polished, kind of refined prospect yet. But if you're talking strictly about, tools and physical traits, Drew Aller was made to play quarterback. 6'5", 240. He can move a little bit. He's got a pretty good pressure to sack rate of only 12% of pressures in sacks because he's able to kind of manipulate and move around in the pocket and some things like that. He, like you said, he's got a great arm. If you want to go vertical, Drew Aller is your guy. He's just not quite there. He's got all the physical traits in the world, but one of the biggest knocks on him is he's only got a 3.4% big time play percentage, which is 114th in the nation this year. He just, for as talented as he is, he doesn't make enough big, explosive, wow-you plays. He'll make some. You'll see him. You're like, wow, that's an NFL arm. That's an NFL talent. He just doesn't do it consistently. And some of his ball placement, I've got some issues there where he kind of gets rid of the ball sometimes too quick, doesn't let things develop in front of him. I just think he needs to simply play more football. Now, if he comes out and he does slide to the 1st round, the 3rd round, absolutely. That is a 1st round caliber talent. He's not quite there as a prospect, but he has that upside. If he goes back, he has a great shot to be quarterback 1 next year. But in this situation, the voicemail asked if he's there in the 3rd and 4th. Do you pull the trigger? Absolutely. I think Kevin Stefanski and Ken Dorsey could do some really fun things with him.
So Jameis Winston, huge numbers, both yardage and interceptions and pick sixes, but he's averaging 210 yards in just the second half of games. That's more than these quarterbacks, who are pretty good, are averaging for entire games. Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, Anthony Richardson, Deshaun Watson, and Bryce Young. Winston also 8 touchdowns in the second half alone. Watson had 5 TDs in the 6 full games that he played. And again, he throws the ball downfield. The interesting thing will be, if he sticks around, can Kevin Stefanski get him to cut back on some of the dangerous, ill-advised throws?
Yeah, because you see with some of these throws, you see why Jameis was the number 1 overall pick. He can fit it in some tight windows. He can go vertical. He'll miss some here and there, like he missed the one to Jerry Jeudy. And then you also see why he was available for less than $10 million a year when he throws it to the other team. But one thing I'll talk about that I think is, some people, I saw a Dog Pound Daily article from Mac talking about this that really highlighted it well. He has no run game right now. He's doing all of this when a defense knows that he's going to throw it 50 or 60 times. And with a guy that is makes so many turnover-worthy plays, gives opportunities to the defense, if he's throwing the ball 50 or 60 times, he's going to throw a couple of interceptions, because that's just a big workload for a guy that takes a lot of risks. If he had a run game and he was only in, the defense actually had to honor that and knew he wasn't just going to be dropping back all the time, I think that's a big way you can limit those mistakes. Like, if they're able to run the ball 20 to 25 times a game and get 4 yards per carry, and you can use some more of that play action and it actually trick them because they're actually afraid of your run game and your offensive line, I think that would help Jameis immensely. I think that's one of the things Kevin could work with him and kind of get those things down, especially if it's for a full season, not just throwing him into the fray through the halfway point. But yeah, I do think that if Jameis is your guy and you improve the offensive line and improve that run game, I think you can cut down on those things in the future and win some a good amount of games with it.
Yeah, and again, I've said this repeatedly. He gets into trouble because he thinks he can make every throw known to man, and some of the throws he tried to make against the Broncos, it was like, wow, that's an awfully tough throw to make. Don't do that. Just, the old live to play the next down has to come into the equation at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. You felt that you did some of that stuff with Joe Flacco too, and it was just like, because he would take those chances and fit it in there, and the only problem is when he does fit it in there, he's gonna then be like, well, I could do that one, I could do this one that's twice as hard, and it's like, no. We don't get completely out of hand and think that there's not a throw that you can't make. Part of me likes that mentality, just for a fact that if he does throw an interception, it's not going to mentally break him for that game. He's not afraid to go take chances and make plays. But there is some time where you're just like, you know what, go ahead and throw that in the dirt. Go ahead and throw it out of bounds over the wide receiver's head, or maybe, run for 2 or 3 yards. And I think, again, we talked a little bit about helping him with the run game, but I think that's something that Kevin Stefanski can really work on in an offseason, knowing he is, that guy, because Kevin has done he likes guys that can operate from the pocket and stretch the ball vertically, but he also likes to avoid, taking some really risky plays. And I think if an offense is designed around Jameis Winston, instead of them kind of pivoting for something they kind of designed around Deshaun Watson, I think he'll find a way he can limit some of those things and get Jameis to, take what the defense gives him.
Well, Myles Garrett kind of wrecked the offensive game plan the first time the Browns faced the Steelers. Russell Wilson, quarterback for Pittsburgh, talked about facing Garrett again.
I think he played a great game. Obviously, I think that he's one of the most talented guys in the National Football League. He's going to make his plays, and the key for us is limiting him and how many plays he makes. But he's obviously a tremendous talent.
What got better in the second half in that regard? How did you guys make things better for yourselves?
I think Dan's had a really good year. I think when a guy's making some plays like that, obviously he's one of the best to do it. I think that we want to be able to slow him down. I think that we responded really well. I think that we were able to it wasn't something new, technique or anything like that. It's just we were able to just lock down and just do what we do really well. And I think Dan did a really good job of that, especially in the second half.
And Jacob, you can be sure after what he did the first time, they'll find another way to add another layer to Myles Garrett.
Yeah, I wanted to give Russell Wilson credit. Like, he got hit a lot in that game, and dude just got up and kept on slinging it. And that was kind of, I thought he got rid of the ball kind of a little bit quicker in the second half, and that kind of helped to neutralize Myles Garrett a little bit. Plus the weather, I think the weather hurt defenses more than people give it credit for, because they were struggling to kind of get their footing. But yeah, I mean, that has got to be point one of the Steelers' kind of game plan offensively this week, is to be like, we cannot let Myles Garrett absolutely wreck us in the first half and put us in a hole. I mean, you get the turnover, it leads to a scoring opportunity for the Browns. And I think a little bit more double teams, maybe some more chips, and just understand, hey, we've got to make sure we neutralize him play one, because we just watched him wreck a half of football. We can't have one man do that to us again.
All right, this is from ESPN.com, Week 14 preview for the Browns. Storyline to watch: Myles Garrett single-handedly wrecked the Steelers' plans on offense in Week 12 matchup. Browns win. Garrett recorded 3 first-half sacks, forced fumble that earned him a Player of the Week honors. Pittsburgh sure to have a better plan to limit it. Bounce-back game. Pressure rate 3.8 in the Browns' Week 13 loss against Broncos. Steelers storyline to watch: Steelers lead the league with 25 takeaways, 3 in their first matchup against Cleveland. In that game, Steelers managed only 7 points off of those takeaways. 5 games as the Browns' starting quarterback. Jameis Winston has thrown 10 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. So, giveaway, takeaway. Pittsburgh's really good at that. That's going to factor into it. What are you paying attention to? What do you need to see from the Browns to feel better about what's going to be a disappointing season?
I would like to see kind of some of these young guys and some of these guys that are especially on offense, that are part of the future. Like, I want to see Jeudy continue to play the way he has played. It's a small sample size right now of him being that dude, but he's been an alpha wide receiver the last 5 games. I know some people like to put the number 1 wide receiver, whatever kind of terminology you want to use. I think for the last 5 games, Jeudy has done that. I think it makes it to where you don't have to force getting a playmaker in the draft or something like that in the first round. So if he can go out there against this defense, against a defense that has already seen him and just saw him 2 weeks ago, can he go out there and have another 75 yards? Can he go out there and have another 100-yard game, knowing that this team's got like direct experience with him 2 weeks ago? So they understand, hey, this is how he beat us. This is how he beat the Broncos. Mike Tomlin is a fantastic coach and making adjustments, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Can he go out there and do that? If Cedric Tillman's out there, can he go out there? I know it's kind of getting unlikely with the concussion that he'll play this week, but can these young guys go out there? Can they get a little bit more out of the run game? Like, I know a lot of this offensive line is probably going to change, but can they get a little bit more out of the run game? Can Nick Chubb show you something that makes you think he can bounce back and be retained, And then, on the defensive side of the ball, it's those young guys. I really need to see some more from Isaiah McGuire, because I've loved what I've seen from him. So it's become an evaluate who has a future with this organization, and some of those guys that are young on new contracts or are guys that are going to be free agents. I just want to see those guys be able to step up and show you that the roster has less holes in it than we thought.
Jacob Roach, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Jacob.
Thanks, guys.
Jacob Roach, make sure you check him out. Orange and Brown Report. He is also co-host of the Barking Browns podcast. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. We turn our attention to the Cavaliers. Chris Fedor, Cavs beat reporter from Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Straight ahead. Stay with us.
Ted.
Hi, Betty.
Oh no, you wrapped yourself into a daze.
Holidays.
You need a break, so I got you Ohio Lotteries Home for the Holidays and Merry Money Scratch-Offs.
You could win up to $500,000 or $1 million. Oh, thanks, hon.
And they have games on the back. Has anybody seen my glasses?
We turn our attention to the Cavaliers, 20-3 on the season. Former NBA star Dennis Scott asked if he believes the Cavs are legit. This from NBA TV's NBA Game Time.
Yes. I say it again, GA. Now after 23 games, you're starting to kind of get into your groove, if you will, Steph. And just the fact that you're going 10 deep, getting this young generation to buy into 10 players playing. Your superstar in Donovan Mitchell understands he can take over whenever he needs to because the rest of his team is playing well. Coach Kenny Atkinson has tapped into Mobley. He's more aggressive on the offensive end. Offensively, we never question that. Jared Allen being Jared Allen. But GA, my question tonight is, Karis LeVert's 7-11. Can we keep him engaged all season long so when the playoffs come, we can believe in his bench going 10 deep?
With that, let's welcome in Chris Fedor, Cavs beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. That's a question, and I'm sure that's one of the things Kenny Atkinson is thinking with this rotation.
Dave, at this point, I just don't know how anybody could think that the Cavs are anything other than real. If you think about it, they're one of the few teams in the NBA, both top 10 in offense and defense, that is typically a marker that points to a championship contending team. The last team to start 20-3, two of them did it, the Milwaukee Bucks in 2019 and the Los Angeles Lakers also in 2019. The Lakers won the championship that year. The Bucks won the championship the following year. The Cavs are number 1 in three-point percentage in the NBA. They're number 3 in offensive efficiency in the NBA. They've got 6 guys shooting better than 40% from three-point range. They're 3rd in the NBA in drives. They're 6th in the NBA in paint points. They can play big or small. They can play fast or slow. They can play inside or outside. They can score with 2s or they can score with 3s. They can go 10 deep in their rotation. They have 4 guys that are capable of scoring 20 points in any given night. They've done that 3 times so far this year, including last night against the Nuggets. So I just don't know what anybody else can see from the Cavs that's going to make them believe that they are a real team. You know, most people that I talk to around the NBA, whether it's scouts, opposing executives, players from the other side, they always say the same thing. We've got to see what the Cavs look like in the playoffs. What did they look like in the playoffs 2 years ago against the Knicks? What did they look like in the playoffs last year against the Magic and the Celtics? And I always say, okay, that's fair. I totally understand that, but don't hold it against this team that a previous team with a different coach, with a different offensive philosophy, with different systems wasn't able to be successful. There is this thing called evolution. Teams can change, teams can evolve, teams can get better. And it's clear that this team is not the same team from the last 2 years.
And, you know, you're a quarter of the season. You're through 25% of the season, 23 games, so it's not like it's early anymore. Kenny Atkinson last night, what the Cavs have shown shooting the basketball this year.
Starting to be real this deep into the season. You have to respect our shooting, you know, and it's a lot of it's a bench guy. We kind of know the main guys, Donovan and Darius, but we just Ty and you know, you had Evan making threes tonight, Dean Wade, and like I said, what I do like a big part. I mean, we are generating good shots, right? Shot quality, I think 1 or 2 in the league, so that's important. So, but yeah, we're you can qualify us as a super excellent shooting team.
And it's kind of interesting, Chris, because early in the year he kept saying, I don't know if we can continue shooting the ball the way we are. If you move the basketball and play up tempo and get good shots, you tend to make them if you're a good basketball player.
It's the thing, Dave, they're not just hunting threes, right? They're not just whipping the ball around the perimeter and settling for threes and looking for threes. They're coming within the flow of the offense, and there's an unpredictability to this offense that's making it really, really difficult on opposing defenses. As Donovan Mitchell phrased it to me last night in the locker room, these opposing defense, their heads are spinning because they just don't know who it's going to be. They don't know where those shots are going to come from. They don't know if it's going to be a dribble drive attack from Darius or Donovan or a spray out to 3 in the corner to George Niang or Sam Merrill. And there's just a bunch of diversity within this offense on a possession-to-possession basis. Different guys are touching it. They're running different actions throughout the course of one possession. And the kinds of shots that they're getting, it lends itself to a high percentage from a lot of these guys. To put it in perspective, last year, Karis LeVert took about 23% of his shots as catch and shoots. This year, it's up to 34%. Catch and shoots, that's going to be easier than a dribble pull-up. So the kinds of shots that these guys are generating within this offense, that's what matters. And if a defense is going to be put into a predicament, what are you going to do? If Darius Garland is driving to the basket or Donovan Mitchell's driving to the basket, do you give them more of an alley to the lane? Or do you say, we're going to try and contest their shot or stand in front of them or close out to them? Well, if you do that, then it's going to be a spray out, and then it's going to be a swing. So much of what the Cavs do, it starts with attacking the basket first, attacking the paint first, and putting the defense into a really, really difficult predicament. And Donovan Mitchell was talking to me after the game last night, Dave, and he said, I've got a friend, it's a coaching buddy. He gives me a stat packet after every single season. And one of the things that stat packet shows is quality of shot for Donovan Mitchell. 2 years ago, him and Darius took the second and third most difficult shots of any player in the NBA. Kyrie Irving was number one. This is according to Donovan, what he told me last night. Last season, it wasn't much easier for them. So far this season, you can tell, you can feel it. The quality of shot that Darius, Donovan, Sam Merrill, Karis LeVert, all these guys are getting within the flow of this offense, it's very, very different. And it lends itself to the kind of percentage that they're shooting.
So we alluded to this. You actually alluded to it. So with Tuesday's 126-114 win over the Nuggets, Cavs have tied their best start franchise history, 20-3. That was back in 08-09. Cavs are also the first team to start 20-3 since the Lakers and Milwaukee, 2019-2020, both started 20-3. And you alluded, one won the championship one year, one won it the next year. When you've seen every game, you've been at practice, what stands out about this team and about the changes that Kenny Atkinson made?
I think the thing that stands out to me is a collective buy-in from the guys. That Kenny has a way of explaining things that make sense to these guys. And he tells them why it would be beneficial for them. He doesn't just say, we're going to do this because I'm the coach and this is what I believe in, right? He pulls out tape on why it can be successful for the Cavs, why it's been successful for other teams in the past, and how it can be successful for the Cavs moving forward. And when you have success playing a certain kind of style, and you can see it working against the best teams in the NBA, whether it's Milwaukee, whether it's Boston, whether it's the Denver Nuggets, it makes it easier to continue to want to play that kind of style. And I think it's a modern offensive philosophy. I think it's a player-friendly system. I think it's one that empowers players and gets them to buy in better, but it also requires a level of buy-in. And he's gotten these guys to buy in and believe in this system and believe in this kind of style. And they're playing with a level of joy. They're playing with a level of freedom. They're playing with a level of confidence. There were a couple of guys in the locker room, Dave, that last year made passive aggressive comments. And it was just when I would be talking to, Sam Merrill about his role within the team, or talking to Craig Porter Jr. about his role within the team, there were some comments that were coming from afar from players of saying, better not have defensive breakdowns or you're going to get yanked. Better not miss some shots or you're not going to play in the second half. I think Kenny's willingness to trust these guys and go 9, 10, 11 deep in this rotation and give them a bit of a longer leash, I think that has really, really helped the guys with their confidence. And, it's one thing when it comes to these end-of-bench players, and, you want them to be effective. You want them to play well. But at some point, you have to give them an opportunity to play through their mistakes and play through their misses. And Kenny Atkinson has done that. And it just feels like everybody that he has turned to, because of the way that he approaches his bench, those guys step up and deliver. A couple nights ago, Jalen Tyson goes from a bunch of DNPs to the starting lineup, and he's effective. And now he's playing 2 games in one day for both the Charge and the Cavs. But when his number is called, it feels like, he's going to deliver because he's been empowered that kind of way, because he's been instilled with that level of confidence. And I just think Kenny has a touch that he has learned from his time throughout the course of the NBA, whether it's alongside Ty Lue, alongside Steve Kerr, alongside Mike D'Antoni, to just make these guys play with a level of freedom and confidence that didn't exist to the same level the last couple of years.
Well, along those lines, take a look at this. And so we're 23 games in. The Cavs have yet to score less than 100 points in a game, which that's amazing because you know how it goes. Eventually, there's a game in there in the NBA where it's like, man, nobody's hitting this. There's no energy. The other thing is, Cavs have actually been beat up. Max Strus hadn't played yet. Dean Wade has missed time. Karis LeVert has missed time. What do you think it can mean when they get healthy with Strus and everybody?
Sky's the limit. It really is. There are so many people, Dave, inside this organization, players, coaches, executives. They're so excited to see what this all looks like and what Max Strus specifically looks like in this particular system. Just think about the kind of player he is. Think about his skill set. And think about what this system caters to. I had one player in the locker room last night tell me Max is an ideal fit for this system. Think about the success that Sam Merrill is having within this system, the success that Ty Jerome is having within this system, the success that Karis LeVert is having within this system. And now you think about the style of player that Max is. Movement, 3-point shooting, floor spacing, running to the corners, passing the ball. That's how Max wants to play. That's how Max does play. So it just gives the Cavs another threat, especially in the starting lineup surrounding Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley. What do you do? What do you do? You can't leave Max Strus open. He's too prolific of a 3-point shooter. He's just a different kind of player than the guys that have filled in for him at small forward. Isaac Okoro is not Max Strus. Dean Wade is not Max Strus. Every player has a different skill set. Every player has different strengths and weaknesses. Max is an ideal fit in this system and an ideal fit in this starting line. He's better. He's a better fitting player, and he's a better player than Isaac Okoro and Dean Wade. So if the Cavs have been able to do this with their 3-point shooting, with their offense, without a guy who was one of the most effective and impactful players in their lineup last year, man, the sky's the limit. I think it just takes this team to a different level. I think it allows the offense to reach a different ceiling, and I think it gives a different layer to how this offense can now attack opposing defenses. Good luck.
Yeah, you know what? It's going to be fun to watch. I can't wait to get the piece, the Max Strus piece, back on the floor for the Cavs. Chris Fedor, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Chris.
You got it, Dave. Anytime, man.
Chris Fedor, make sure you check him out. Great Cavs coverage, pages of the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. It's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here Monday at 4 o'clock. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you Monday at 4 on Sports for CLE.